taking a look around, at least 2 of you have already heard this, so bear with me, but for those of you that are not familiar with it, the city has hired Clarion Associates. We are a firm in Denver that does planning and zoning work all throughout the country. So New Braunfels has hired us to help rewriting the current zoning regulations. We have finished, the project is split up into 4 different installments because, you know, code is a big thing, and so taking it in different pieces makes it easier for reviewers to understand what's happening along the way, and it isn't just, you know, us working here in isolation and then handing back a several hundred-page document. So what we have done so far is kick off where we came and talked to a lot of people, including some of you, about what is the state of affairs, what is working with the current code you have, and what are the important issues to address. Housing certainly came up as one of the most important among those. We, after that, came back with the first installment, which was districts and uses, and that was, I want to say back in the fall, maybe November. And so that installment proposes some new zoning districts to add some flexibility in terms of what housing can be provided in the community. It also, among the uses, lists a bunch of different housing types separately that we will talk about in a little more detail when Jean pulls up the presentation, just to give some more options in the community for what can be built. The next installment is development standards, and we're working on that right now. It includes parking requirements, always a popular topic with any members of the community. It includes landscaping standards. We will be going through subdivision standards, things that relate to lighting, noise, and those kind of regulations. There's a lot in development standards. So we're working through it, passing along pieces to the staff right now for review, and I would think that a public version of that whole section should be available to you within a month or 2. The remaining sections then will be historic preservation and signs, which we have put together to do as one piece. And then the final thing is administration. So how does the city process applications for land use? Those are a little bit out into the future. So that is the project as a whole. That's the overview and where we are with it right now. What we were hoping to do today is, thanks for inviting us. I'm really interested to hear about the work that you all are doing and to think about how we can support that with the zoning regulations. We have a presentation to show you just different kinds of housing, but I'd like to hear about the work you're doing and then how can we help? You know, what do you need in Braunfels to move forward what your committee is working on?
All right. So, can you cue through the presentation?
District, you know, we have residential, you know, duplex, multifamily and such. And so what we're going to be doing here is talking about some potential new housing types that we can include, and we'd like to get your feedback as to whether or not you think they fit in our community. Go to the next one, please. So this is the use table that lists the different types of products. Right now we have single family, duplex, townhome, ADU, multifamily, manufactured housing. That's pretty much the types of housing that our zoning ordinance easily accommodates. You can do a few of the other types of housing. You're like, you could do a tiny home, but you'd have to do it on like a 45 or 5,000 square foot lot. Not many people are going to do that. So in the LDO rewrite, we're looking at having single family, duplex, townhome, ADU, multifamily, but differentiating it into 3 levels of density instead of the 2 that we have now. We're looking at maintaining manufactured housing, including a live-work dwelling, a cottage home development, that's also sometimes called cottage court development, a triplex, fourplex, and then tiny homes both on an individual lot, and then maybe a neighborhood, a pocket neighborhood of tiny homes. So that'll give a little bit more diversity in housing types. These are the 2, if you could go to the next slide, please.
When did we include ancillary?
What do you mean
When
by
you talk
ancillary?
about ancillary buildings or home houses.
Like ADUs?
Okay.
Yeah. So these are the 2 housing types that you really see here mostly. You see a lot of single family and you see a lot of large scale multifamily. We don't get a whole lot of other types of development. We have a few duplexes, but they're not, the majority of duplex zoning is made up of single family housing. So if we could go to the next slide, please. Okay, so here are some different ways that duplexes can appear. You can have stacked duplexes where you have 1 story, 2 story. You can have the traditional side by side, and there are a lot of different variations on this. These, I think, are some of the maybe more appealing ones, because I personally am really not fond of houses where all you see is the garage. I think that's the ugliest part of the house, and why would we want to live in it? So I really like these that feature either rear access or another form of, especially for the smaller lots. And the next slide, if we could go back, please, is going to show some.
Can I jump in with something here?
Certainly.
For the most part, what you will see in these pictures, if they are not in New Braunfels, they are in Texas. So with this duplex one, that the picture that is at the center and on the bottom, that's New Braunfels. And so, important point to make with duplexes is people think it's weird, there aren't that many of them here. There may not be that many, but they're there, and they are in parts of the city that were built before regulations said that you shouldn't have a single family dwelling and a duplex side by side. So in your older parts of the city around downtown, we took a tour and saw a good number of duplexes there that fit really nicely into that neighborhood. So as we are going through, just know that lots of these pictures are from New Braunfels, and if not, they are from other places in Texas. So none of these are completely foreign to the area where you are.
All right, thank you. Let's go back to the triangle fourplex, and the 2 on the left are actually in the Mueller development in Austin. The one in the middle, I'm not certain where that's from. It might be representative. It's different. That's probably why. Is the code that we're working with now in draft, at least, is trying to take advantage of those allowances that you can have in terms of, because it effectively, it would reduce the cost of the workload, and it probably would work for the majority of people. And there's actually a development in Sons Landing now that's looking at putting in some work-live units, because they have a mixed-use development, they have to add some mixed-use components, and work-live is a mixed-use component, because you can have both a shop and, living there. And so someone who has a small bakery or a coffee shop or some type of artisan, it's really well suited for those types of things. And I know when I lived in Austin, there was a shortage of live work units. People who were artists were looking for places where they could do their art and live in the same. But if you're a potter and you need a kiln, well, you can't do that in a single family zoning district. You can't get in trouble. And so things like that are really well accommodated and suited for work living units.
Just gonna stop sharing for a second.
Okay, and the next one is tiny homes, and these are, this has gotten a lot of popularity, and I think maybe one of the biggest obstacles with tiny homes is it going to be considered a manufactured home and something that you bring in, or is it something that's site-built on the ground? Because right now, our code would allow you to do it in any zoning district if it's site-built. But the more affordable ones are typically the ones that come in on wheels, and so there's that. Whether or not you can put those tiny homes in what zoning district, that'll be an interesting thing to explore, to kind of work through as a community. But I think it certainly has a place. People who don't want to invest a lot in homes, who don't want to get into debt a lot, younger people often, find the tiny homes really very appealing. And the middle picture kind of focuses more on what we're thinking of, these tiny home communities that are also possible. There are some of the mobile home parks in New Braunfels have tiny home communities within them. And so,
Park models.
That's good. And then this is a tiny home village in the next one that just kind of depicts